All right, I think we're going. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell. Yeah, we're going. Okay, so this is the next tutorial, should be number 3. And I'm going to show you how to do a half stitch, which is also called a tent stitch. So I'm going to take another, well, think of a minute, another ply from this strand. And remember, you pull straight. Just pull it straight, and then you can kind of gently get all that straightened out. We're going to put it to the side. And this, I'm going to make my 2 ends meet. This is about a 30-inch length that I'm working with, and so when I double it up, I am making about a 15-inch length. So I'm going to take my sponge here, it's just damp, and I'm going to run my thread over the damp sponge. And it's just water, so it doesn't hurt it, and it will dry. These threads are color fast, which means that you can wash it afterwards and it will not bleed. And with DMC, I can tell you from my experience, I have never, ever had bleeding problems with DMC. And I've never rinsed them out beforehand either. Okay, so I'll do my licking method here. And I'm going to thread my needle. Now, when you pull it through, you need some tail. You don't want it right up next to the needle. So I just bring it down. You can see the tail's kind of like out here. Okay, so you need a tail. You don't want it to go all the way down, but the tail stops about like right here. And I've got my loop on the other end. Okay, so I am going to do a half stitch. A half stitch, or tent stitch, as you will also hear it referred to, is simply half of a cross stitch. So if you can do a cross stitch, you can do a tent stitch. So I'm going to come down a little bit, and I'm going to come up here. Let's see if I can, there we go. Let's try this. That's better. So I'm going to bring my needle through. This is the bottom left corner, and I'm going to turn it over and pull it through too. I've got about right there, so I've got plenty of room to pull my needle through. I'm just going to kind of pull that out a little bit. Now, I railroad, and so we might as well get in the habit of it if you're going to do it. If you don't want to do it, that's okay, but I'm going to put my needle in between the threads. Can you see that? Okay. And then I'm going to put it through the top right corner to make my first leg. And pull it through. Now I've got my finger back here. Sometimes you have to, the thread gets kind of wrapped, you have to pull it around. I'm going to put my needle through the loop, maybe. There we go. Okay. And pull, pull, pull. Okay. Now it's secured. That's a tent stitch. That's half of a cross stitch. So if I'm doing tent stitches going across the row, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to what normally would be the bottom right here. But I'm going to pull that through. Instead of, and you remember you want to pull it secure where it's kind of taut, but you don't want to pull it so hard that it starts warping the holes. So instead of, normally with a cross stitch, I'm going to go up to this upper left, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not making a full cross stitch. So I'm going to turn this. This is now the bottom left of the next stitch, and I'm going up to the top right here. I didn't railroad that one. That's okay. But even here, you can see the difference between the two. This one's a little fluffier right here, this first one. So now I have 2 tent stitches, or half stitches. So I'm going to come into, got to make sure I'm over here. That becomes the bottom left again. And this time I am going to railroad, maybe. Sometimes you have to smooth it out with your finger. and then go top right. And railroading will slow you down a lot at first, but once you get in the habit of it, you just automatically do it. So I'm going to do 2 more of these, and you can just watch me and do my railroad. Maybe it's wanting to be difficult today. Top right. Hopefully, I know the camera's shaking a little bit, but maybe this will be a little bit better than when I taped before. I'm going to do 1 more to make 5. And do my railroad. Now, well, if I want to come back down, I'm going to go to the next row and come back. I just drop down. I'm going from this square, I'm moving to this one. So I'm going to drop down to this hole, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing, going in the same direction. See how I'm going in going in the same direction with my half cross stitch. The only thing is I'm coming back the other direction. Keep it in focus there. That is the only difference. Yeah, the thread, this particular thread's not liking me. And sometimes you have to move down the thread a little bit to pick it up. But just practicing, if you're really interested in railroading, just practicing with it just to get in the habit of it. I automatically do it now, and when I'm not having to be self-conscious about a camera and trying to get it not to blur, it's a little bit better. Okay, now you see what's happened to my tail has come up really close, so I just need to pull it out a little bit, and sometimes you just kind of have to smooth out your thread, and it's a little hard to do with me looking at doing the camera, but smoothing it out there. Okay. Now, let's try this again. Okay, got 2 more to do. And 1 more. Well, now, sometimes, usually your tent stitch or half stitch is going to go this direction typically, but you can go the other direction. So if I come down to the next row, which I'm going from this one to this one, all I do, instead of going bottom left, see, this would be the bottom left, I'm actually going to go to the bottom right of that square. And I'm going to come up, and this time I'm going to make the other leg of the X going that way. See? Okay, let me try to make sure I don't get it so close it's blurring. Okay, I'm not going to railroad these, just so you can see the pattern here and how to do it. I'm just going the opposite way. I'm going from left to right in the row, but as far as making my tent stitches, I'm doing the opposite. Now, if I want to go down to the next row, this is one, and then this one is right below it. So I'm just going to come down to this one, and I'm going to come up to top left corner. So it's bottom right to top left. Now, I'm not railroading right now. I'm just showing you several of these stitches. And one more. There we go. That is the tent stitch. And so what you want to do is take a piece of fabric, and you will want to practice this until you get it down. If you've got the cross stitch, you've got the tent stitch, and I'm just going to leave this like it is so I can show you some other stitches and some other tutorials. So I'm just going to leave it. And like I said, you've got the cross stitch, so you should have this one down pretty quickly. And once you get the hang of it, then you can move on to the next one, and I will see you then. Bye.